You've just entered the Extra Zone Arcade, and welcome to the final part of the Mario 40th Anniversary Superspective. Feels kinda weird to actually be at the end of this thing. I mean, we uploaded the first episode way back in February, and here we are 6 months later. We're not seriously bringing that back, are we? Though I actually started recording my gameplay footage back in January, so I've basically been working on this project for the last 7 months. Wild. Anyways, last time we looked back on Super Mario 3D World, which is pretty much one of my top 5 Mario games of all time. Today's episode is on another game that makes that list, but as you'll soon find out, it's near the top of it. With all that out the way, how did Super Mario Odyssey set sail? Right after Super Mario 3D World dropped, Nintendo EAD, now EPD, and 1UP Studio got right back into their bag with a new project. Kenta Motokura, who directed 3D World alongside Koichi Hayashida, was brought on again to direct solo, and Yoshiaki Koizumi is producing once again. This game was pretty much developed in tandem with Nintendo's upcoming Switch system, a handheld console hybrid. What a bizarre choice to follow up the Wii U. Surely that thing isn't going to become their second best-selling system of all time. So, the game development team and hardware developers exchanged some notes. Mainly specs and what kinds of things can be done with the new hardware, which influenced certain features of the Switch itself, like both Joy-Con being motion capable, as well as HD rumble. The Joy-Con's motion capabilities lent themselves well to the idea of Mario throwing objects as a main mechanic. So they had to consider what would feel the most natural with that kind of motion, and this is where the idea that he should throw his hat came from. The theme was decided pretty early on, and that would be surprises and travelling. The developers took inspiration from their trips around the world, and wanted to incorporate different cultures and economies with a Mario twist. This meant each area would have its own aesthetic, but still keep distinctly Mario elements. Other elements would be taken from some previous games, which were done to flesh out the world. From the jump, this was going to be experience tailored to fans first, something they hadn't done arguably since Sunshine. So there'd be a lot of callbacks and references to the franchise's history, and even the gameplay would go back to that more open-ended style of the first two 3D games. We got our first look at the game in the Switch's initial reveal trailer back in October of 2016. We're starting to get into the times I remember vividly. This was back during the NX speculation era. If you remember this image, you're qualified for an OG pass. I got home from school to see they posted the reveal trailer just a few minutes ago, and immediately sat my ass down to watch and analyze it. What I absolutely didn't expect was to see footage of what looked like Mario running around in a Mexican desert-inspired location. Yep, they just soft confirmed a brand new Mario game, and you know I was on that shit like a moth to a flame. We wouldn't have to wait too long to get a more detailed look, as it appeared in the Switch presentation of January 2017. Though back then it felt like an eternity waiting for this. You know, back when 3 months actually felt like 3 months and not one. Take me back, man. Having Mario jump out of a sewer in this realistic city with realistic people was just about the best way they could have fully revealed this game. I mean, other than some of the small Mario and Donkey Kong elements, I don't think Mario's equivalent of Sonic Adventure was what anyone was expecting. Actually, this game has a lot of Sonic influence in general, which kinda makes sense as several developers that worked on Unleashed in Generations helped make this game. Interesting how these two franchises influence and cross over with each other. It's almost as if I should make a Sonic version of this series next year. Okay, last time I'll bring that up. Until I do it. Then we got more gameplay at Nintendo's E3 showing that year, along with the main theme of the game, Jump Up Superstar. This is where myself and pretty much every other Mario fan really felt the hype of this thing. A new Mario game was always going to happen, but this one felt like it was going to be something really special. As the months closed in on October, we got some more trailers, interviews, and
Super Mario in real life.
Around this time, I also started getting more into indie games, so I wasn't keeping up as much with Nintendo. At least until I got my Switch that August. Still, I'll try to keep up with as much of the important stuff as possible. Then, on October 27th, 2017, Super Mario Odyssey would release in all the major regions. And yeah, wow, a 97 average on Metacritic and 8.9 user score. That's kinda insane, but maybe not so much for Mario. Regardless, that ain't a number to sneeze at. But what did I think of it? Like I said a minute ago, I got my Switch for my birthday in 2017, just 5 months after it dropped. Those were some painful months of having to stick with the Wii U while everyone and their mother had the new hotness. Still, I held out long enough to finally get my hands on it. I got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Splatoon 2 right away, naturally. I also lent a copy of Breath of the Wild, but only played for around 10 to 20 hours as I'd get Sonic Mania a couple weeks after. Other than Odyssey, that was my most hyped game of the year, so I spent hours upon hours with it. So that alone pretty much kept me busy until October, which was pretty much Mario Odyssey month that year. Man, when this game released, I remember watching playthroughs on playthroughs of it. Why? Well, I didn't get to play the game right away, much to my dismay. Had to wait till one cold holiday, then I could go ahead and play. I said, wait, what did you say? To get the game, I gotta hope and pray? Guess for Christmas, I'll be in the fray. Wait until that morn, be that as it may. Any record labels wanna sign me? Bars aside, I played tons of this game through 2018, but I never actually beat it. I remember getting somewhere around 320 moons by Bowser's Kingdom, then got distracted with school stuff and other games. Though really it just came down to me waiting for Smash Ultimate to drop. But let's be real, who wasn't spending all of 2018 doing that? I wouldn't actually come back to beat the game until late 2019, but I lost my save file due to moving my Nintendo account. So yeah, had to start the journey from the beginning. Though this time I'd spend less time screwing around getting every moon and pretty much exclusively focusing on getting what I needed to progress the story. This was pretty much what kickstarted my lockdown Mario marathon, as I'd go back and play all the other games shortly after this. Really feels like we come full circle. After both of my initial experiences with this game, I remember just being blown away and even a little overwhelmed with just how much there was to do. The worlds were dense, vibrant, and packed full of moons to uncover that I'd just get lost running around seeing what I could find. I didn't really get the hang of the game's more free-flowing movement style until my second playthrough, but I still found it a ton of fun to roll around and fling Mario's new companion to everything I saw. My next playthrough would be for my Mariothon stream series, as I'm sure you're familiar with by now. These were my final thoughts on beating it again.
But yeah, that's Super Mario Odyssey. And I gotta say, beating it again has just... This game is one of those games where, as I'm playing it, like, the whole time, I just constantly have a smile on my face. Like, there is never a dull moment in this game, genuinely. It's so goddamn fun. From beginning to end. Like, I love everything about it. Mario's moveset is top-notch. The levels and locations are super fun and varied. They're really cool. Finding the moons is just satisfying. This has some of the best levels and themes in a Mario game. I mean, New Donk City alone is, like, so freaking crazy good to me. And there's a reason why it was, like, the first big reveal of the game is Mario being in this, like, realistic city. Because it's, like, such a different setting, but it works so well for this game. And it's just... God, it's so goddamn peak. It's peak. This is the best 3D Mario game. Hands freaking down. I'm sorry. I love the Galaxy games. I love 3D World a lot. But this game just exceeds everything that came before it. It's perfect. Like it is a damn near perfect game. So that's it for this.
So, is this really my favorite 3D Mario of all time? Replaying and 100%ing all the other ones has really made that particular title a hard one to fight for. But does Odyssey manage to shine above the rest? Especially now that I've taken the daunting task of collecting 999 power moons, getting all costumes and all souvenirs. Let's get into it. The game starts out with a cutscene. Mario and Bowser are already running the wands, but the Turtle Monarch gains the upper hand. Or well, upper hat in this case. The top hat, some might say. His plan is to force Peach, who, wouldn't you know it, is kidnapped again, into marriage. Marital contracts. Ugh. Gotta be the most sinister plot the guy has ever cooked up. With Mario defeated, his iconic cap is shredded to pieces by one of the airship's propellers before a mysterious ghostly figure retrieves it. Once Mario lands, he finds himself in the Nightmare Before Christmas and sees that ghastly guy from before. This place is Bonneton, and this interesting fella is Cappy. He explains that Bowser not only attacked this kingdom, but also captured his sister, Tiara, the one that sat on Peach's aired head in the intro. There's not a lot going on behind those eyes, but we love that for her. Speaking of eyes, Cappy fixes up and possesses Mario's hat, giving him the capture ability. Now, enemies and obstacles can be forcibly mind-controlled and given Mario's likeness for them to bend to his will. This feels morally dubious at best. You know, maybe MatPat was onto something. I'm gonna need him to come out of retirement. So, the two head off on their grand adventure, but soon run into the Broodals. They're a quartet of thugs that Bowser hired to make sure the wedding goes off without a hitch. They're basically this game's Koopalings. Make of that what you will. After dealing with one of them, the real journey begins as the duo track Bowser from kingdom to kingdom. But how are they able to stay in pursuit? Well, just after landing in the Cascade Kingdom, they discover an out-of-commission ship called the Odyssey. Mario needs to collect moons to keep it powered, but once it's up and running, the chase begins. Though things take a turn after they encounter the Groom in the Cloud Kingdom, where Bowser blows the Odyssey out of the sky. Mario and Cappy have to collect themselves and get everything back into ship shape. Once they do, a few kingdoms later, and we're on our way to Bowser's home turf. But he won't let our heroes get through so easily. See, he has this hyper-realistic Dark Souls dragon here to ensure that Mario is all out of lives, even though lives aren't a thing in this game. After defeating it, they repair the Odyssey a third time and set sail again. So now, in Bowser's kingdom, we gotta take care of the Broodals once and for all, as Bowser announces his plan to marry Peach on the moon. This motherfucker took I love you to the moon and back as literally as you could. Of course, now that the Odyssey is at full power, it can make the journey off-world so we can crash this thing. Mario objects to this happily ever after and challenges Bowser to one final showdown in the moon's underground cavern. Things take a turn when the whole place starts to collapse. So, Mario does the thing I think we were all hoping to see once we found out this game's gimmick, and captures Bowser. With Peach perfectly perched on his shoulder, the 2, 3, 4, technically including Cappy? Wait, no, 5. There are 5 of them here. I forgot about Tiara. The 5 of them escape back to the moon's surface. Mario, Bowser, and Cappy separate. Bowser's not ready to throw in the towel yet, and in a last-ditch effort to defeat Mario once and for all, busts out a bouquet of flowers as a proposal to Peach. Our main man isn't one to get one up though. He collects those. I've officially made the worst joke of all time. We can all go home now, it's finally been done. So anyway, with the 2 grown-ass men fighting over her like kids getting a turn on the Xbox, she gets overwhelmed and rejects both of them. Then she has a valid crash out and takes off in the Odyssey with Cappy and Tiara. She was perfectly content leaving Mario on the moon with Bowser to sulk for an eternity. Kinda crazy considering how often he's put his life on the line for her to do him like this. I mean, she doesn't owe him anything, but maybe not leaving him to die is the least she could do. But he manages to make it back aboard the Odyssey by using Bowser as a platform, and he can make that awkward ride home with Peach, thus wrapping up the story. You know, this one actually has quite a lot going for it. Yes, we're doing Bowser kidnaps Peach again, but this feels like the most natural conclusion to all of that. I mean, for all these years, the guy's been doing it because he likes her, in his own weird way, so the whole marriage plot kinda makes sense. And I do like the idea that we're going to all these kingdoms as a kind of cat and mouse game. Even discovering along the way that Bowser is visiting these kingdoms and stealing their artifacts to make it the perfect wedding. It feels like for the first time we actually have a game that puts more of a focus on the plot again. Like there's an active narrative that's not just there to contextualize the gameplay, but also inform it. They haven't really done that since Sunshine, and I mentioned back then how I'd like to see an honest attempt at a story again. I got that here, so I'm happy. Not that these games need this kind of narrative, but I just like to see the characters interact and get into interesting scenarios. But they didn't bring back Sunshine's awful voice acting and animations, so I'm afraid that game still mogs this one.
Mario! How dare you disturb my family vacation?
Though, interestingly enough, I'm now about to talk about the gameplay around the same point in the video I did with Sunshine. Funny how these things work out. So, where do I even begin with the gameplay here? Since 64, it's felt like the series has mostly been heading in one consistent direction. The game's got more and more linear from 64's completely open-ended design, then to Sunshine's open design with linear mission structure, then to Galaxy's entirely mission-based structure, and then 3D Land and World's A to B level progression. Like I said during the development history segment, this game's intent was to always go back to 64 and Sunshine's more open design. So we have a bit of a shake-up there for the first time. It's back to the 3D Collectathon style, but this time we're after power moons instead of stars. Or shines, which I guess are kinda like little suns. The Sunshine parallels just become more and more apparent as I talk about this game, aren't they? I'll talk more about the process of getting these later, but for now, we'll go over the controls. Best way to describe it is like a much improved version of 64. Mario's ground speed is just about the same as in that game, maybe just a little faster. He'll go faster than that if he gains momentum, and enter a kind of sprinting state like in 3D World. Though it's not nearly as fast as that game. The speed curve is actually closer to Sunshine, weirdly enough. Even stranger is that they somehow managed to make this snappy feeling Mario without him shooting off into whatever direction you press. Mario reaches his jump height faster like in 3D World, but now has 360-degree movement, unlike that game. Basically, the controls are kind of an amalgamation of all the previous 3D titles, but even more improved. I think this all contributes to it being the best the plumber has ever controlled in 3D, and this is bolstered by the insane amount of moves there are. Of course, the guy can jump, man.
Say that again?
But now, the triple jump has returned, along with the long jump, wall jump, backflip, side flip, and even spin jump. Whole lot of jumps. But there are some new ones in this game, like the ground pound jump and the spinning ground pound jump. I didn't even know that latter one was a thing until writing the script. In midair, Mario can perform a dive, which is back from 64 and Sunshine, but the roll from 3D Land and World has been completely overhauled. Before, it only boosts you forward a bit before uncurling. Now, your momentum scales while rolling, and you can keep it going if you keep hitting the button or flicking the Joy-Con. Super useful for getting around fast, and this puts you in sprinting state for a moment after you uncurl. Crouch walk is back. Cool? This game goes back to not having power-ups like the games prior to Galaxy, but this time, the game revolves all around Cappy. Kinda like Flood and Sunshine, this guy is going to be crucial to how you approach platforming and other challenges here. First, you can throw Cappy by either hitting X or Y, or using the Joy-Con motion controls. The game actually recommends you play with Joy-Cons, since certain maneuvers are only possible with motion controls. You can use a Pro Controller, but doing some of these motions while also pressing buttons or using the control stick can be kinda awkward with it. Detached Joy-Cons feel a lot more natural in that regard, so this is how I always choose to play the game. Matter of fact, this is the only game where Joy-Cons are my preferred gameplay style. Sometimes Mario Party, since there are some motion games I actually kinda like in there, but that's a topic for another day. Or year at this point. Maybe 2. Usually I don't love motion control implementation, but this is harmless enough, and I even find myself having fun just waggling around throwing Cappy at every obstacle I see. There's just mindless fun about it that can't be denied, but it can be rewarding when you're precise. You can home in on enemies if you flick again after sending out the monitor, so use this when dealing with small or hard to reach guys. Now, if you know anything about this game, it's probably all the crazy jumps and tech you can do with Cappy. The main one is the cap jump, where you send him out and hold a button down to keep him in place, then leap onto him for basically a double jump. You can even dive toward him if you need to cover that little extra distance, which is pretty much the main way you want to get around when platforming here. It's never required, but the game definitely encourages it, and man does it just feel so satisfying to pull off consistently. Speedrunners have done some pretty nutty things with this, but I'm not built for that kind of lifestyle, and can still use it for some good casual fun. There's also the catch jump, which is where you hit the button just as Cappy returns to Mario's gloved hand. This one isn't as useful, but again, it just feels satisfying for some reason. You thought I was done with the controls? You naive little bastard. There's more tech to talk about, like roll cancelling, which I didn't even know existed until today, and the quick swim. That's performed by basically inputting what would be a mid-air dive, but underwater. Great for some of those precarious watery tunnels. Okay, now I'm done. I think it goes without saying, this is Mario's most expansive moveset to date, with pretty much endless options for whatever situation you're in. Want to get around fast? Combine rolling with some long jumps. Need extra height? Ground pound jump and then perform a cap jump. See a super far off platform you want to skip to? Long jump, cap throw, dive, cap jump, dive again. It's not just the usefulness of the moves on their own, but also all the combinations. It's really one of those games where anything seems possible with just the right string of moves. Anytime you think, I wonder if I could get there just by using this, you probably can. You might get it right away, or it might take a few tries. But basically anything is possible, and that's the kind of freedom of movement I think every platformer should strive to have. The only limit to Mario's performance is what you, the player, believes he can do. So just go wild and experiment. Cappy alone opens up so many avenues, so I can only hope whatever the next 3D Mario will end up being has a mechanic that's half as genius as this. And I haven't even talked about the main thing he's here for. It's kinda crazy to think that Cappy and the capture mechanic weren't even fully revealed until E3 2017. As soon as Mario popped out of that T-Rex, I knew this game was about to be a generational experience. He seems to have a lot of those. I mean, this man really is just the LeBron of gaming. His vertical is almost as good too. Almost. No one beats my glorious King James in that respect. Now, there's just no way I can talk about all the captures in this game and what they do. We'd literally be here for hours, and this is already the longest episode in the series. Hell, apparently I didn't even get all the captures after 100%ing the game and grinding all the other stuff. Instead, I'll just talk about a dozen of my favorite ones, or ones that stood out. Naturally, the T-Rex has got to be one of the best. I mean, rampaging around as a big freaking dinosaur tearing up enemies and obstacles is pretty sweet. It's pretty hard to argue against that, and if you try to, you completely lack joy and whimsy in your life. I'ma cheat a bit and count Bullet Bill and Banzai Bill as one. Capturing these guys and soaring around at high speeds is pretty fun, but the blowing stuff up part is cool too, which sounds completely unhinged out of context. Just getting to fly around as a Banzai Bill like this makes you feel so powerful. Speaking of blowing stuff up, the Sherm tanks are pretty cool. You can roll around and shoot cannonballs at pretty much anything, and there's even a super cool boss fight that revolves entirely around it. Capturing a Hammer Bro just feels cathartic. After all the deaths these guys caused me in the earlier games, it feels good to wreak havoc as one. Though you're mostly just going to be throwing frying pans with these guys, since most of the time you find them will be in the Luncheon Kingdom. And lastly is Gushin, who you can pretty much only find in the Seaside Kingdom. His capture ability propels you with strong water jets either forwards or up. If you get your positioning just right, you could use this to get up to some pretty high areas. Maybe combine that with some cap jumps and dives, and who knows where you might end up. There are a couple other captures I want to talk about later on, but those are what I'd consider the best of the best for now. But I'm just barely scratching the surface of all the things you can do with this ability. For instance, you're going to be capturing a lot of things that you might need to traverse areas, like pylons or forks that you got to flick across. Just a quick aside, I love the cutscene that plays when you perform your first capture on the frog. It basically has the frog's life flash before Mario's eyes as he assumes its form. Makes you wonder if he sees that every time. If so, I wonder what he saw when capturing some of the humans in New Donk City. Namely the guy driving the RC car who we know has kids. Do you think Mario saw the guy? You know what, maybe it's not worth thinking about. Actually, while on the topic of the residents of NDC, it's crazy I haven't talked about one of the most surprising returns of a character in the whole franchise. Yeah, you wouldn't think it now with just how much stuff she's appeared in since, but Pauline coming back in this game was a big deal. She also got revealed in that awesome E3 trailer, and along with being the mayor of New Donk City, is also the one singing the main theme. Pretty bold way to bring back this character, but how did all this happen? The last time we saw her was in the Mario vs Donkey Kong games, and she was still mostly a damsel in distress like in her original arcade appearance. Minor spoilers for Donkey Kong Bonanza, skip ahead to the timestamp on the screen to avoid them. All good? Okay. So it's implied that the young Pauline seen in this game grows up to be the one in Odyssey. There are some things that don't make too much sense here, but it's way too complicated to cover in this video. So anyway, she's definitely moved up in the world, and like I said before, she's appeared in pretty much every major release since. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Cappy. Like I said back in the Sunshine episode, he's a lot like Flood in that he's only relevant to one game and a small appearance in Smash. Outside of that, these guys got nothing. Which kinda sucks since I'd argue they're the most fun and unique extensions to Mario's moveset we've ever gotten. The other NPCs in this game didn't fare too well either. Because this game is all about travelling all around the world, you meet so many unique characters with cool designs. The Toasterinans, the Lock Ladies, the Chivarians, the Bubblanians, the Volbonians, all some of the most unique NPC designs of the whole franchise, just tossed away after this. It's a really huge shame. Especially since I actually found myself going out of my way to talk to these guys more than the ones of the previous games. It helps that these worlds are just so interactive in the first place. You really feel like you want to explore and get as much content out of each location as possible. There are 17 kingdoms in this game, each with their own expansive level design, purple coins and moons to find. Picking a favourite is pretty tough since I love just about all of these. I think the two biggest standouts from all the marketing and fan reception were the Sand Kingdom, or Toasterina, and the Metro Kingdom, New Donk City. These two are also some of the bigger maps in the game, though Metro is more vertical with all the skyscrapers and high-rises. The inverted pyramid set piece in Toasterina was super cool. Exploring the inside felt treacherous, so whenever you got to the outside sections, there was a sense of relief to it. This kingdom probably has the most 2D segments as well, which are basically these Mario 1 styled obstacle courses. I gotta commend just how close they got the physics of this to how SMB felt, while still keeping that modern polish. It kinda has the same awkward floatiness, but Mario feels a lot easier to maneuver here, which is definitely for the best. I wouldn't have wanted it to be 1-to-1. Metro Kingdom has 2 of these sections, one of which is the New Donk City Festival. You play through this Donkey Kong arcade course where you go upside down dodging fire, jumping barrels, and even encountering the Big Ape himself. All the while, Jump Up Superstar plays, setting the stage for the most memorable moment of this entire game. It really feels like such a huge celebration of this franchise and its roots, and is the perfect midpoint for the game's main story. After New Donk, you have the choice to go to either another one of my favourite kingdoms, or my least favourite of the major ones. If you guessed Seaside Kingdom was one of my favourites, congratulations on paying attention to what level archetypes I like and don't like. Your reward is me yapping about why Bubbleane is cool. You are going to have to go underwater a lot for this one, but there are so many ways to get around. You could just swim normally, which is fine with how much improved the swimming mechanics are, but that's boring. You can capture Cheep Cheep for some underwater exploration, or take the form of a Gushin to dash around and reach higher areas. There are also these rocket flowers you can attach to Mario's hind that boost him fast enough to run over the water. The boss fight against Mollusk Lansour is one of the most fun, with you having to take out all the seals to get him to put down the cup. After that, you gotta catch him using a Gushin and ground pound his dome until he's history. Well, until the refight during the postgame. After that, the kingdom gets enveloped in the warm light of a sunset, which never fails to get me in that relaxed state of mind. On the flip side, I did enjoy the Snow Kingdom, but you know how it is with ice levels. Slippery surfaces, mostly uninteresting visuals, and freezing water make this probably my least favourite to navigate. But like I said, it's not bad, and there are quite a few moons I liked here. The Windchill Cavern is home to several moons that involve out-of-the-box thinking, which is perfect for this game's playstyle. The Bound Bowl GP races were also pretty fun, even if I haven't gotten the hang of the timing to this day. Backtracking a bit, another one of my favourite kingdoms was the Wooded Kingdom, also known as Steam Gardens. This one gives me big Planet Wisp vibes from Sonic Colors. And there goes that Sonic influence again. The Iron Road has some fun platforming challenges as you navigate around using a captured up route. The BGM for this area is also definitely up there, and it almost made some of the coin grinding I had to do here later on worth it. It feels like you can really freestyle your platforming here. Plenty of opportunity for cool cap jumps and skips to get moons quickly. Though, why the hell do so many of them involve busting a nut? I mean, seriously, someone on the dev team had to have known what they were doing. So, I've talked a lot about some of the different moons you can get here, but these are truly the tiniest handful of ones you can get. There are 880 unique moons in the entire game, so just like with all the captures, we could be here for years talking about each one. Also, in all honesty, it's really tough for me to remember many of the ones outside of the main story just because there are so many. Kinda like the green stars in 3D World. Similar to those, I'd say it's more about the overall experience of gathering them than each one on its own, and gathering them was genuinely a good time. From small ones like sitting next to this guy on the bench to beach volleyball, there was a ton of variety. I kinda cheated that one though by using the multiplayer feature. It basically has you use a single Joy-Con to control Mario and another to control Cappy. Kinda like most 3D Mario multiplayer modes, it kinda sucks. Hell, I never even mentioned the co-star in either of my Galaxy episodes. This game's at least has some more use to it. Like this mission where I just move around Cappy, who's a lot snappier and quicker than Mario, to cheese the game. It still took a few tries to get up to 100 volleys, but way less than it probably would have been otherwise. Unfortunately, I couldn't cheat the Metro Kingdom skipping rope challenge, which also happens to be way harder. There used to be an exploit for it, but it got patched out pretty quick. I had to have spent over an hour doing this. Low-key might be the hardest challenge I've faced during this series, just next to Champions Road. Anyway, the point is that there are a lot of moons that do stand out, and these are the ones I appreciate even more. Overall, I think they're usually very well placed and make fantastic use of Mario's expansive move list. Just that constant dopamine hit of finding a new moon in an unexpected spot was enough to keep me hooked through every playthrough. No matter how many of these things I've collected over the years, I never get tired of it. The purple coins on the other hand gave me jaundice, but like purple instead. They're mostly pretty easy to find until you get down to the last 10 to 15 in that respective kingdom. What ends up happening most of the time is it'll be in a spot you could swear you already searched, so make sure to triple check or waste minutes upon minutes looking like a dumbass. That happened to me a lot. Still, just because of the nature of how fun this game is, I don't mind fumbling around trying to pick up some extra coin. Plus, these are how you get the Kingdom exclusive outfits and souvenirs. Just another way this game does an excellent job of making it feel like you're on this grand globe-trotting adventure. Mario essentially gets a taste of all the different cultures, and you can even deck out the Odyssey with some swag. It just adds so much flavor, and so I think the purple coin hunt is worth it. Even regular old coins get some good use here, since those are what you use for the non-kingdom specific goods. You might remember I mentioned having to grind coins a couple minutes ago. Well, some of these costumes are crazy expensive. Wow, okay, that pun was completely unintentional, especially some of the DLC ones. The 8-bit Mario Cap and Skeleton costume require you to max out your coin count twice alone. You'll have to max out about a dozen times if you want to get them all, and the method I used was to grind the secret courses in Wooded and Bowser's Kingdom. That was before I realized that it was an old strat and that Balloon World was actually the way to go the entire time. Balloon World was also a little DLC added to the game, where Luigi sets up balloons for you to find or place yourself. It's all online, and if you can find and pop another player's balloon, you get huge rewards. Hell, even if someone else attempts and fails to find the one you placed, you win coins. Needless to say, I wish I realized just how big the payout for this could be before I wasted literal days of my life. The things I do for content, man. You'll better subscribe. So, as you're checking off all those lists and going through the kingdoms, you'll probably face a lot of guys that want to kill you. I already mentioned the Broodals. There are 4 of them, each with unique fighting styles using hats. Topper fights using a whole bunch of them. Harriet throws and drops bombs onto the arena. Spewart throws up poison everywhere, he should probably go see a doctor. And Rango throws his hat with blades. They each take 3 hits to beat, so it's pretty much business as usual as far as Mario bosses go. Knucklotech is another one in Nintendo's repertoire of giant hand bosses. Coincidentally, he's found in the desert like iRock back in 64. But this time, you gotta capture him and throw his hands back at him. I also mentioned Mecha Wiggler in passing earlier, but this fight has you in the rainy streets of New Donk. Use the Sherm Tank's bullets to stop this creature of the night as he tries to warp around and shoot energy balls from the city's siphoned electricity. Hey, would you look at that, another boss I mentioned earlier. It's almost as if these were the ones that stood out the most. The Ruined Dragon has to be one of the most what the fuck moments in the entire franchise. I mean, Mario running around a realistic city with realistic people was already baffling enough, but this? Gotta be one of the last things I ever expected to see from this franchise, especially when the last dragon we saw was this guy. It's the setting too. The Ruined Kingdom is straight out of a From Software game, so it just makes this stick out all the more as an incredibly out of place sequence. But in case you couldn't tell, I love it for that. Anyway, the Lord of Lightning lives up to his name, as you'll need to dodge his shocking attacks. Knock the Kabuto off his head, deliver a ground pound, and give the Titan a mean headache. Then of course is the king of getting absolutely no play, Bowser. First of all, we gotta talk about how absolutely dripped out of his mind he is. I know this outfit was expensive as hell, but clearly he doesn't give a damn since his main attack is to throw his top hat. Once again, we have a boss taking advantage of a player-given ability. Like I said in the last episode, this is one of my favorite tropes that I wish we could see more of. Once you stop the cap, you can wear it and just absolutely beat Bowser down. But watch out for that tail while you're doing this during the later phases. It wouldn't be a Bowser fight if he didn't shoot fire at you or cause shockwaves, and he'll even try to bowl you over with debris. There's a lot you gotta look out for in what I consider to be the best fights 3D Mario has seen. Yeah, I think these fights against Bowser top anything the other games had to offer by quite a bit. Yeah, even over all the other bosses in this game, which I already thought were a mark above the rest. After the final fight with him is where you get the big moment where Mario captures him, and you have to escape the crumbling Honeyloon Ridge. This sequence gave me chills the first time, like there was nothing more hype than smashing shit as Bowser in both 2D and 3D, while Break Free Lead the Way blares in the background. The ending of this game has gotta be my favorite out of any Mario game. They just nailed everything this game built up to so perfectly in this one sequence. It's awesome. Even more awesome is some of the post-game content. After beating the game, you're sent straight to the Mushroom Kingdom, complete with a recreation and remix of Peach's castle, just as it was in Mario 64. Having the courtyard be fully explorable in HD with much better controls was just the icing on this already very delicious cake of a game. If you speak to Toadette here, she'll award moons for certain tasks completed, and this is where a good chunk of your post-game moons will come from. The other Toads are too busy being freaked out about Peach being missing again. Turns out she's just gone sightseeing, and we can find her in all the major kingdoms with a different outfit. Kinda almost feels like a precursor to Princess Peach Showtime, especially how close some of these fits look to ones she has in that game. She'll drop a moon for you in each spot, but there will also be moon rocks to find. Break these open and a whole host of new moons will be added to the kingdom you're in. It's essentially a second campaign, but somehow with more content. As far as I can tell, you can only get a little under half the moons before the post-game, so you'll be spending a lot of time moon hunting again. The process is just as fun as before, only with less cutscenes and bosses. Though you can refight some of the major ones through these Mario 64 style paintings in the Mushroom Kingdom. These refights will be harder than the originals, so grab any life up hearts you can find to increase that health. After getting all 880 moons, you can refight Bowser in the Moon Kingdom, but it's a little tougher this time. Loved the original fight, so this is a cool reward. I even did it with the invisibility cap, which is the other 100% reward. Kinda bizarre way to congratulate the player, but it makes for an interesting little challenge run if you're into that sort of thing. Before you even think about that though, you gotta contend with some of the harder challenges in the game. First is the Dark Side of the Moon, which is unlocked after you collect 250 moons and beat the game. First up, it's round 2, or maybe round 3, against all the Broodals, who actually live here. Rabbits on the moon, huh? More Japanese folklore in my Mario game? Love to see it. Like with all the other second bouts, these fights will be a little more intense, and there are no checkpoints between them. So if there's any time to make sure you got a life up heart on you, now would be it. It culminates in a rematch against the Robo Brood, which I actually think may be easier than the original fight. You gotta capture a Hammer Bro to take it down, which has more maneuverability than the Pokios did back in Bowser's Kingdom. That and their Hammer Volley does more damage quickly, so the only part that's harder is the more intense attacks. But this never posed a problem for me and it was over before long. After that, you gain access to a bunch of secret stages in this area, which each provide a neat little challenge for 2 moons each. Breakdown Road's secondary moon was really tough. You have to make it to the end of the road, then drop down below. A Banzai Bill will burst out the wall and you have to make a series of extremely precise long jumps as you guide it to the wall on the other side. This one took me a good number of tries and just over 20 minutes of gameplay. I can't even give a good strat for this one, just long jump and pray to the platforming gods you weren't a few pixels off. You also unlock a variety of hint art moons to find, which kinda sends you on a little journey through each kingdom. I really like this a lot as a last hurrah before you move on to the game's ultimate final challenge. So, after you collect 500 moons, the darker side of the moon unlocks. Very creative name. This is home to only a single mission, Long Journey's End, which is this game's equivalent to Grandmaster Galaxy, Champions Road, and etc. Though I would say difficulty-wise, it's probably the easiest of these. It still took me more tries than the perfect run did in Galaxy 2, but I felt I didn't have to put every essence of my being into my winning attempt. The hardest part was probably this bit where you gotta flick across lava on these forks. This mechanic can feel a little janky at times and you have to be extremely precise with it or you're literally cooked. That's immediately followed up by this platform ride where these Burbos ambush you, and you gotta avoid the pulse beams. I recommend standing in a corner so you don't hit the blaster when attacking the Burbos. You should be safe like this. Beyond that, there's this fun section where you get to do some platforming with Yoshi. You unlock him as a capture for the first time in the Mushroom Kingdom, and he's probably my favourite one in the entire game. He runs faster and seemingly jumps a little higher than Mario, but he can also flutter jump on top of that. What's Yoshi without his signature tongue attack, which can now be used to cling to walls and jump between them? Just a fantastic addition that made beating the game feel even better, and I was super glad to see him get utilised here too. You even get a section towards the end where you get another Bowser capture sequence. It's a lot more claustrophobic and difficult than it was the first time, but you can make it through pretty much by brute force alone if you have the health for it. Then, as is 3D Mario Final Challenge tradition, it ends with a very electrified thank you message. And hey, they even made it so I can see the whole thing all at once. Nice. Unlike normal, it doesn't actually end there. The stage ends with an ascent up this tower in frog form, mirroring the very beginning of the journey. All the while, Cappy reminisces on the amazing journey we just had together. It's rare that we get such a serene and reflective moment in one of these games, let alone after the most blood-pumping marathon the game has had to offer. I really love this. It has this feeling of genuine accomplishment, but also melancholy. That triple moon at the top was all I needed to 100% the game. It was definitely a bittersweet moment. But with that, the journey is over. So, I immediately got to work on grinding coins for 999 moons and all the costumes after. Yeah, it was a long process that I may have made even longer and more boring for myself by not using Balloon World at first, but it didn't take away from my overall enjoyment of the game. A big freaking top hat can be found on Peach's castle after that, and you get some fireworks. Not the craziest reward ever, but like always, it's about the journey. And I don't think any other game in the series, no. I don't think any other game, period, embodies that as much as this game does. Around every corner, Super Mario Odyssey aims to surprise, hype you up, and wow you at the fantastic design and mechanics. It completely succeeds at basically every turn. Now, that's not to say there aren't any dull moments, something I do disagree with myself from 2 years ago on. Just by nature of how many moons there are, not all of them can be as innovative and exciting as others. That said, I'd be hard pressed to tell you there was a single moon I just straight up don't like. If nothing else, the freeing and dynamic controls made some of the moments that would be more tedious an opportunity for me to practice my techniques or try new ones. And what's more is the game encourages that at all times. The presentation here is probably my favourite out of any 3D Mario game. I know some folks don't love all the different art styles each kingdom has, but I think it just works more in favour of the idea that we're exploring all these different cultures. Sure, there are moments where things clash, and I mean really clash, but I feel that just adds to that feeling where you're constantly wondering what strange and cool things await you here. I played the game on Switch 2 this time, so on top of having faster loading and a resolution boost, the already vibrant colours looked even more vivid. I think it's kinda a given, but this will be my go-to way to play the game from here on out. The soundtrack is also immaculate, definitely up there with the likes of Galaxy 2 and 3D World for me, and that just goes for the game as a whole. For years I've struggled between this and Super Mario World being my favourite in the series. I think I finally reached a conclusion on that. I pick Odyssey. Now, I should say that I think World beats it on replayability. I'd still definitely go back to that game first, but as a package, Odyssey just has it all, man. It may not be perfect, but it's for damn sure the best 3D Mario game, and maybe even my favourite Mario game period. It seems there are a lot of people that agree with that, since this game basically got perfect 10s across the board from most critics. And even within the fanbase, this game is regarded the same as Galaxy and 64. Not to say it doesn't have its detractors, I mean, I'm sure you've heard the too many moons argument. Still, I feel that's only a drop in the ocean compared to the sea of praise this game got, and still gets today. To top it all off, the game sold 29.28 million units, which puts it way up there with some of the most iconic Mario games of all time. To me, there's one other game that could take its spot if I give it another look. That's a story for another time.
Играй всегда, везде и со всеми в Super Mario Odyssey на Nintendo Switch. Nintendo. Играй по-другому.
It's hard to believe we're here, guys. The end of the Mario 40th Anniversary Superspective. And the end of by far the longest episode. There have been many times throughout this where I thought some of these episodes would never see the light of day. Many times during this very episode here. But we did it. If you've watched all the way through this movie and you haven't already subscribed, you might as well commit to it at this point. If you want to see more from me, I stream over on Twitch and YouTube every weekend, so go check those out if you need a bit of madness. With that all said, I thank you all so much for watching what has been my favourite, and most stressful, projects I've ever worked on. And I'll see you next time. it's hard to believe it's all over. So, what's next? Well, I gotta review Mario Kart World and DK Bonanza, so probably gonna get to that. Oh, stream highlight compilations. Yeah, really want to do that for the Mariothon. What else? Huh? What's that sound? It's getting closer. Wait, it can't be. It's